that.
Well, here's my colleague Navin Singh Khadka on exactly how the greenhouse effect works.
So basically, you see the theory that these gases trap heat and make the world warm. So this warming thing that we've been hearing about, it's going on. And compared to what it was before the industrial period started, we're already 1 degree warmer. And the projection is, at present, whatever pledges have been met to cut down carbon emissions, we still are on course to 3 degrees. And that is what they say is a very dangerous situation. Already we are seeing so many impacts.
And these new findings from the UN out today, they're shocking, but I bet for someone like you, they're not particularly surprising.
No, the struggle is still, it's still there. Because if you remember, in 2015, when the Paris Agreement was signed, it was a vague agreement that the world needs to keep down the temperature rise well below 2 degrees. And then recently, you know that there was another report saying, well, actually, 1.5 might be much better, and 2 is not good, actually. But then that was easily said and done, you see. Now, this year, very soon, we'll have another UN climate conference, and that is supposed to thrash out a rule book. Now, that rule book is supposed to implement the Paris Agreement, and that is the contentious issue. That is where the real fight will happen.
Well, Donald Trump's long been sceptical about whether climate change is happening and whether humans are contributing to it. He outdid himself today with a tweet saying, "Brutal and extended cold blasts could shatter all records. Whatever happened to global warming?" Well, we could start with this report from the Intergovernmental Panel on Climate Change that says the world has to change tack to avoid extreme weather, rising sea levels and putting millions at risk. Or he could turn to, well, that's that report, or he could turn to this graph from NASA, which shows temperatures have increased in the last few decades. NASA also says the world's 4 warmest years on record were the last 4. NASA also quotes 97% or more of actively publishing climate scientists agree that climate warming over the past century is extremely likely due to human activities. It goes even further and lists online 200 scientific organizations that agree with that. Here's Navin again on how climate scientists react when high-profile figures like President Trump put question marks against their work.
They're very cautious not to get into the politics. But of course, they keep on reminding that these figures that we see, it keeps on coming, that the drastic cuts in emissions has to be made. But whereas, as you said, there's almost 50% rise of concentration of greenhouse gases compared to pre-industrial period. Obviously, they're worried. And then they also talk about, if you remember, when Donald Trump made this decision that the US would opt out of the Paris Agreement, few days after that, White House brought out a statement saying that we've said that, but then we will be present in all these negotiations to secure our national interests. Now, if you talk to negotiators and also some scientists, what they say is, what does that mean? Does that mean that they will hinder the progress? And then, of course, there will be other countries. For example, what happened in Brazil? Brazil had a new president now, and there are worries that, because what he said before the election, that he might also opt out. And there are other countries. So obviously, yes, there are concerns, and some of them, they put this thing quite diplomatically.